All right. I hope this is working. This is like a new format for YouTube and stuff, and I hope you guys can hear me. In the past, I've had a mic problem. Just mess around a little bit. Nothing really to focus on. Just show you some of this usual. So here's my chair. It's a wooden chair. Let's see if I could get the camera down a little bit. There you go. So wooden chair and just a pillow on top. It's really all you need. Let me change the location of the camera there. Okay, so I think that's a little better. And yeah, you could practice your techniques this way, and you don't have to worry about destroying your chair. So Stickman is in the garage at the moment. So not everyone can have a Stickman, but right here, chair. Most people have a chair in their home. And like I said, you could put like a blanket or whatever. So you could practice let's go single stick first. Just practice your angles of attack. So this hand right here, for a beginner, I recommend have it right here. Hello. So let's have the hand right here instead of just not paying attention to it. So you want to keep it here. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. See, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you just be mindful of this. Of course, later on, you will be using this hand to your advantage, but before that, you just want to make sure that you don't hit your own hand or it gets in the way or something. So that's why for beginners, always recommend we say protect the heart rather than just not paying attention to it. So 1, 2, let's go. We also want to practice left hand as well. So you found a used tire. Great. That is so important. It's kind of difficult to have a used tire in your home. You know, you don't want to make the wall dirty and stuff. But yeah, used tire, garage or in the backyard, that's the way to go, man. Very good. But for home, I like the chair idea, or make a Stickman. But yeah, so like this, and left hand practice 1, 2, just as important. Even if you don't intend to use your left hand, because let's say you're right-handed, it's good to work on the left hand because it forces your brain, it forces your right hand to teach your left hand. And the more that you practice teaching, in order to teach something, you have to really kind of know it. So it forces you to know your material better. So that's a good thing, because you know, with your right hand, you might just be like, okay, I can do it, no problem. And then you go to the left and you're like, whoa, how did I do that? And then you got to like slow it down. And that means maybe you don't know it as well. So going from right to left is a good thing. So here we go. Same thing, hand right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Diagonal, side to side. And when we go to knife, you see kind of like a lot of people, they practice these forms. And the knife is a lot more compact, so you can go faster, right? You go faster like this. The problem that I see is people kind of turn into arm only. So they're doing this kind of stuff, okay. And yeah, it's fast, it feels good. That feels great and everything, but you want to be able to put in the body mechanics. So this alone, you know, if they're wearing clothes and stuff, it's not going to get through. So you want to make sure that there's a time and place for the quick stuff, but there's also a time and place for being able to put your body in there as well. And the only way you're going to really learn that is from this. And that's why in Filipino martial arts we make sure, right? We make sure to start with the sticks and always include the stick training, because it forces the sticks, the length and the momentum. When you swing it, you kind of have no choice. Your body has to go with it. So, and if your body's not moving in the right way, you're going to be swung around by the force of the stick. So that's why it's really good to train with the sticks there. So yeah, let me try this. Double here. Not crazy about that angle, so I'll put it right here. You guys can't really see. Lower that. Okay. So here we go. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just basic diagonal, 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 diagonal. So as I'm doing this, what's critical is grip. The grip is very, very important, especially when you go to a live blade, an actual blade, and you really start cutting stuff for real. You know, because sometimes you may not have a glove. If you have a glove, then you can get away with a lot of things, but in real life, you may not have that glove. So in that case, you want to make sure that your grip is solid. And it's not something that you're probably going to get right away. It takes time for sure. And the more time you put into it, the better your grip will become. So there are some things that we need to focus on right here. And at different levels, there's different things to focus on. And everybody's different, you know. So some people, everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. Some people are very talented in certain areas, and other people are not. So when you are practicing this kind of thing, boom, boom, the very first thing, right, is probably memorization of the movement. You have to memorize, whether it's the heaven six or it's the angles of attack. You got to memorize the patterns at first. And then as you get better, it turns into free flow, where it's not even a pattern anymore. But so you want to break away from the patterns, because patterns they start to become predictable. But at first you got to memorize and start with that pattern. And then the next thing, when you go to actual target training like this, is being able to actually hit this and not hit my hand. Like I don't want my hand to like graze it. I want to make sure it's the blade. The blade is hitting it, right? Boom, 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 and not my hand. So with a knife like this, that's fairly long. If this was a real knife, it's pretty big. But when you go to a knife that's closer to EDC, and of course it depends on your EDC blade, but to go to a shorter and shorter blade is definitely harder. It requires more skill. And you want to be able to work with a 3-inch blade, or even shorter, 2.5-inch blade. And so now doing this and not hitting your hand on this becomes a lot more challenging. And then if you start moving around, you start doing footwork and stuff, now it becomes a lot harder to make sure that it's only your blade that hits the target, not your hand. And make sure that the cuts are solid. Then when you go to reverse, It's the same idea. Right? I'd rather miss than hit my hand on it. So the idea is to play safer than to be, oh, I want to hit the target. I want to make sure I hit the target, because once again, if you accidentally get your hand caught or you hit something that you don't want to hit, you don't want to hurt your hand. So that's very important. So I'd rather be safe and work my way closer, 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 closer until now I make contact, rather than go too close and then now I got to work further and further away. So the idea there is learning your distancing. Cool. And yeah, that idea right there will go into the sticks and the knives where you are slashing. But as you're doing this, if I'm further away, see, that's a stab right there. So these are all stabs. Why? Because I'm too far away. So same movement, I get closer, there's slashes. Same technique, but whether I'm doing a slash or a stab just depends on the distance. So my brain, I really don't care which one I'm doing. So it just kind of auto adjusts. So it's not necessarily I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to slash this guy. Oh, I'm going to stab this guy. It just kind of does it automatically, if that makes sense. So, okay, so here's the wall for you guys. You can kind of see more of what I'm talking about. So right here, there's the wall. And from out here, long range, boom, boom. So I'm just free flowing right here. Right? These are more strikes just because of the distance. A good slash would be to come here and to cut like this. That is going to have a lot more, I could go in a lot deeper. I'll make sure I'll go through the belly. It's a long time that I'm pulling, and it'll be a nice and deep cut. But in order to do that, I have to get very close. So from far away, it's just easier. It's not necessarily like one of these, which let's say is more like a thrust, but it's more like a poke or a peck. But so right here, boom, 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 boom. See, those are not these kinds of slashes. And that really just has to do, once again, with distance. So boom, 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 boom. See right there, that was actually a scrape. So it's not even a slash. So boom, boom, boom. And as I get closer now, it auto adjusts. And even if I have to use the butt end right there, I will. Boom, come here. And that would have been a devastating, much deeper, much more powerful cut, where I get to put the body, where I really get to use my own weight and force there, like so. And when you do make those movements, you want to make sure that you don't accidentally cut yourself, your leg or your arm, but still be able to put the body in there. And to learn that, once again, it's the sticks. So yeah, the length of the sticks, I have to be wary of the entire length of the stick. If this was a machete, all this is blade. And when I bring it down like this, I don't want to cut off my knee. I don't want to cut my other leg. I don't want to cut my arm right here. That would be bad. So I need to make sure I know which way the edge is, which side is the flat side. I have to be able to control that. And if it's double-edged, or it has a saw in the back, because some of them do, then you're going to have to be using it more like so. Or maybe even here. So, and of course, we don't want to forget about empty hand. And that's where we could start practicing that as well. Boom, boom, boom. I like the up to downwards motion. Of course, we have down to up. So that motion right there comes from the sticks. So let me choke up because I'm in a confined space here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. So that motion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. Boom, boom. All I did was make that same motion now diagonal, diagonal, boom, boom, boom. Make it sideways. Now, one of the things is that when you go double blade, what do I think about push daggers? Well, thank you for the question. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just a tool. And if you look at Filipino martial arts, one of the ideas is that, you know, we're very versatile. We want to be able to use any and every tool. So push dagger is great. If you have it, I'm going to use it. If I had a pistol, I'll use a pistol. And even if it's a non-weapon, like a bottle or something, I will use that. So the idea is better than using your hands. So, you know, in a combat situation, okay, I think they're great for unskilled people. Push dagger, is it better? Like, does it work better compared to something like this for unskilled people? You know, I don't know. I think it could, you know, because the idea of the push dagger is you're making a fist, right? You're making a fist, and guess what? In combat, people like to throw punches. So in that sense, I agree with you. I see what you're saying. Yeah, you know, compared to a knife here, people start doing stuff like this, right? They run in, or they start doing stuff like this, and that's not as natural as throwing punches, right? Boom, boom. So in that sense, a push dagger, it kind of encourages the punching. It encourages the fist. So I can see what you're saying in that regards. Now, you know, depending on the push dagger, at the end of the day, you got to test it out. You got to try it. So you can't just go by theory. It's fine to have an idea, but you know, I recommend at the very least get a bunch of cardboard boxes and go to town on it. So you can rip open your arm. If you throw a punch with knife in hand in stress situation, you can rip open your arm. Let's see what do you mean by that? So if you have a knife in your hand and you throw a punch, And are you saying like maybe it gets caught like right here or something? And then, so I'm throwing a punch, it gets caught here. Yeah, I mean, I can feel that it's definitely going against the grip. So, and then if that happens, I mean, who knows, right? If you create weird angles onto it and compromise your grip, lots of bad things can happen. That being said, you know, it comes down to training. So if you have the training, like I said, in Filipino martial arts, we want to be able to use everything. We want to be able to work with pretty much anything that you could hold in one hand. So the only real restriction here would be weight and length. So if it's too long, if it's too heavy, then it starts to become difficult to wield with one hand. So then it might be better with two hands. So, but other than that, pretty much any kind of one-handed weapon we want to be able to use, whether it's a push dagger, a flashlight, pepper spray, whatever, we want to be able to use it. So if your arms are close together, okay. So if you have a knife and your arms are close together, yes, that is definitely a danger. For sure. And that's definitely something that you need to overcome through training. And one of the things here is, like, you can see my arms are here. If it's not here and I'm working more with here, then this is more of a danger. But if I'm hitting forearm to forearm here, and if I get into a much more closer range right here, then as long as I'm sticking to forearm, then I'll be safe. What is my favorite weapon? One of the things I really like right now is the Tomahawk. And on my Instagram and my Twitter page, I've been showing these the credit card axes that you could kind of put onto handles and stuff like that. So I have pictures of that, and I've been messing around with those, and I really like it. So yeah, the Tomahawk axe, it's basically a stick with a blade on it, right? That's what a Tomahawk is essentially. So yeah, that kind of thing I'm really digging. Let's see. What are your thoughts on a collapsible baton as an eskrima stick? Great. I think by the way, thank you guys so much for all your questions. Yeah, well, one of the problems with a collapsible baton is, at least where I live in, it's not legal for civilians. It's meant for police. So, but yeah, it's a little bit shorter than an eskrima stick. Very effective, very useful. I've worked with police officers and talked to police officers, and I was like, well, why do you guys use this so much? And I mean, they're like, sometimes you don't want to stick your hand in the bad guy's pocket after you've arrested them. So with that, you can kind of see, do they have a needle in there, a syringe, or whatever? So you could feel out like that. Or if you're talking to someone and they're about to close the door, you could use the baton to stop things like that, so they can't slam it shut. Because once they close the door and lock it, now it starts to become a little bit more of a pain to try to go after them. So it's useful in many ways. It's not just for striking and stuff. And the other thing is, the baton, whether it's a stick or a collapsible baton or a nightstick or something like that, in the Philippines is pretty much known as that is the best anti-knife weapon. Okay, and by best, I mean, of course, a firearm, you're gonna take the guy out for sure, but that could cause legal trouble and stuff like that. So you want something that's more, it matches more. So in that case, because if you take out a firearm and shoot the guy, it may not become self-defense anymore. It might look like you just shot the guy and killed the guy. So like I said, in the Philippines, it's widely regarded as the stick is the best anti-knife weapon. And actually, the knife is also the best anti-stick weapon. It depends on range. So if you're very close, then the knife is going to have the advantage. If you're further away, the stick is going to have the advantage. So they're like in a close relationship, kind of like Batman and Joker, kind of like the yin and yang type relationship there. So yeah, that's why we study both, that they have a very special connection, the stick and the knife. But yeah, we're big into bladed weapons, and of course we're really big into the sticks as well. So, and the tomahawk is the anti-stick and knife weapon. Well, the tomahawk generates so much power. I wouldn't say it's the anti-stick or anti-knife. It's more like the put together of the two. It's the bastard child of both the stick and the knife, because the top part's kind of like a knife, and then you have the stick. So it's the best of both worlds in a way. Just the leverage you could get with a tomahawk is incredible. Problem with a tomahawk is it's a little bit trickier to carry, harder to find, things of that nature. Walking around with it is definitely going to be a lot more troublesome than, let's say, a folding knife. So yeah, but very, very powerful. The leverage you could get with that is incredible. So if someone's knocking on my door and I know we're going to be kind of in close proximity and I don't trust this guy, then I'd like to have a tomahawk. So yeah. Okay. So let me see. I'm really enjoying the questions you guys are giving me right here. So thank you so much for that. So yeah, in the meantime, let me just go through some movements right here. So boom, angles of attack. 1, 2, 3. So nice and slow, always an important key. And even though I'm holding a knife, in my mind, this is no different than I'm holding a stick. So the techniques are still, I'm thinking stick, because it all comes from that. The stick is the core foundation. It's a generic enough weapon that now I can transfer those skills to other things. So, and then of course a tomahawk, since we're talking about tomahawks, tomahawk is a specialized weapon, just like this guy right here, the balisong. This is a specialized weapon. Now, of course, I could use this just like a regular knife. Then it doesn't matter that it's a balisong. But when I want to start using the capabilities that the balisong has, that a regular knife can't do, now it's a specialized weapon. And specialized weapon training comes after the basic stuff. So not all that back always mentioned you shouldn't have to defend. Aikido is a legit martial art. Why has its practice fallen out of favor as nowadays? Okay, thank you. Well, for sure, it's MMA. I think the popularity and the rise of MMA has made Aikido and other traditional martial arts put over here. And you guys kind of like, so many people look at martial arts and it's a style versus style kind of thing. And I kind of feel like that's kind of the wrong way to go. So like, let's say you look at a knife, right? So let's say you have a knife and your knife is $300. Okay, so it's a really nice knife, $300. And with that, if that's the knife you start off with, you probably can't appreciate it to its fullest degree. So you kind of want to work your way up there. So if you start with a $10 knife or a $5 knife, a cheapie, and you practice with that, and that teaches you a lot of valuable things. And gets you closer and closer to the $300 knife, does that mean that that cheapie is not a good, wasn't good like in your path-wise, in your development-wise? So when you look at something like Aikido, Wing Chun, or Sistema, or a lot of the ones that get criticized, you kind of have to see them as they're like part of the progress. You know, if you just study that and think you're ready for the street, I think it's already been shown that that's not going to happen, you know, unless you yourself is already a monster. You yourself is already a natural born fighter or something, or you grew up in the tough streets or something like that. So, okay. What's the all-around best knife grip? We should train in all of them, and they have certain advantages, but what's the more effective grip? Honestly, in Filipino martial arts, they teach pretty much the two standards, right? Is what I call the standard grip, which is this way, and I don't care if the thumb is here, the pointer finger, or you're holding it more like this. None of that matters. If the blade is facing out this way, or even if it's up, but this is the general idea. This is the standard grip because it's normal. And then the other one is this, the reverse, where it's downwards, okay? Now, that's pretty much, in the Filipino martial arts, that's the two main ones, and they teach us to use both. It really depends on distance. So when I'm in closer, this just works better. And if I'm out here, then this just works better. So it's just a matter of distance. So if I try to use this out here, it is possible, and I've seen some guys very, very good with the reverse grip in long range, but they've trained that. They're very specifically trained for that, okay? So maybe part of it is they're trying to throw you off guard and go, look, I'm going to fight you in close range, but actually they're very good at long range with this. So, you know, that's a specialized case, but the general idea is we use this and this. Now, I want to go into the foregrips, which is, let me, okay, so out here, this is the standard, okay? And when you turn it to where the blade is now facing back towards me, I call this the ripper, because stabbing, like, rip things, okay? And then this is the reverse grip. The edge is out that way. And then once the edge is back towards me, I call this the mantis, because you're like a praying mantis, okay? So those are the four major grips. There's way more. There's way more. Someone mentioned push dagger. You could do a push dagger grip. You know, there's a hand axe grip. And some of these may occur when you're doing a disarming stuff. So there's a ton more grips, but those are the four major grips that I like to teach. And the way that I teach it, once again, is you use all four. Now, you use all four, specialize in what works for you, okay? So what you specialize in, what I specialize in might be different. So don't mistake opinion, or, you know, so for you, maybe this might work extremely well. And for me, it might be this one. Okay, some people call this the Pikal, okay? So whatever the case, now we're just talking opinion. So don't confuse opinion with fact. You can specialize in what you want, and that's a good thing, all right? But I do recommend to be knowledgeable of all four, the four basic ones that I just showed you guys right there. So let's see. Not all, let's see. With standard grip, it can easily can be pushed into you or a chest grappling fight, but by a push dagger, it's hard to point in onto your own body. I think it's the best for you. Hey man, so you know that's your opinion, and you know, it would be silly for me to argue with you, because once again, at this point, an opinion is, you know, that's a preference. So if you like a push dagger and it really works for you, like you're like, man, I really like the push dagger, then dude, go with the push dagger. But make sure you don't put it up on a pedestal, okay? Know that the push dagger has pros and cons, just like anything and everything else. There is no invincible. There's no the best. That's a holy grail. It doesn't exist in my opinion and my recommendation. So if you want to specialize in the push dagger, by all means, there's nothing wrong with that. But then if your reasoning is because it's the best, then you're going to find out that the world is huge and there's a lot of good guys, and there might be someone who's working with a knife that, I don't know, maybe it's an orange peeler and they're like awesome with it. You never know. The world is big, man. There's all kinds of people out there. So, you know, at the end of the day, specialize, but that is your own personal preference. It's not a fact. Okay. So just be careful with that. So thank you guys. Thank you guys. This, you know, that's one of the things that I noticed is in martial arts, we got to look for the truth, right? We want to find the truth. Why? Because in real life, it's bad guys here. I take out my knife. He takes out his knife. If I'm living in a fantasy world and my techniques are all theory, and this guy, you know, he's actually used it and he knows what to do, I'm in huge trouble. So he's more realistic and I'm going to be in fantasy. That's exactly what we don't want. So we have to find the truth. The truth, oftentimes we start thinking, okay, is fact. And what the truth is through practice, we get better and better and better. And it's like we're getting closer and closer to the truth. But we never say, this is it. It's like science. Science never does that. You know, science always did. In fact, they don't even say this is 100% all the time, always true. They don't do that. True science is supposed to be, this is the highest probability. And the rest is we do experiments to test it out and try to come as close as possible to that conclusion. And if not, we record it. We write it down, and then if we need to, if it's so inconsistent, then we might need to come up with a new theory or a new hypothesis, and then we test it out. So that's science. So martial arts should be exactly the same way in thinking. So don't, you know, mistake. You're trying to be truthful, realistic, but once again, people start mistaking that with fact. Like, this is the way it is. We want to be so, I guess we're very insecure as human beings, so we want that answer, but you have to understand that it is ever evolving, ever growing, ever dynamic. So, you know, you are also changing. So even if you are super skilled, like Mike Tyson, champion of the world and everything, the way he fought back then and the way he fights today, it can't be the same. The way he trains has to be different. So he has to modify stuff for today. And so even if he found the perfect thing, it's perfect for when he was in his 20s. So now in his 50s, it has to change. So things change is what I'm trying to tell you. We are always going to change. So be careful of locking yourself into going, that's a fact, because that will give you a closed mind. All right. So you want to be realistic. You want to be truthful, but at the same time, allow for room of error, allow for, you know, people to go question and go, what's up with that? And you don't get defensive and you go look at it and go, okay, let's test it out. Or maybe it doesn't work 100% of the time, you know? So once you start accepting it like that, now you're looking at your own method more realistically, and that's just better for you. Instead of, this is the way I do it because this is the best and it always works. That's when someone says something like that, I'm going, red flag. This guy's a little bit in the la la land. So anyway, let's see. Let me go into double sticks here. So with the recent videos that I've made, I hope you guys can see the difference with the two types of strikes that are going to be coming at you. I don't care if it's a stick, a blade, or a punch. It doesn't matter. One is full swing, and the other is is like that, where there is a retraction. It's much faster, right? So those are the two types of strikes you gotta really deal with. And one of the first things that I teach people, and this is, if you do the heaven six long enough, and naturally it happens. When people start with a heaven six, at first, you make these big motions, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. And as they get better, and by the time they go to partner training, you see them start to do this. Okay, boom, 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 boom. So this is more like that second method. So it's important to know those two. All right. I think an advanced issue with most groups revolves with disarms and wrist control. Even a great grip can be countered with a well-placed leverage against your wrist. What is your opinion on this? To be perfectly honest, from what I've seen on YouTube, to me it looks like nobody has figured out disarms. So, people are like, oh, a karambit, you could get disarmed and break your finger. Nobody, in my opinion, can really do a disarm in real life. So I'm not worried. Does that mean that, and look, that was a big statement. I just made a huge statement. This is probably going to make a lot of people angry. Okay, maybe that's too strong, the way that I apologize. So let me say, in real life, disarms are incredibly, incredibly difficult, okay, in real life. When the other person's not cooperating, it's not your student, it's not the dojo, this person wants to kill you, it's very, very difficult to do a disarm, okay? So because it's so difficult, and the times that there are disarms, like you actually see police camera footage or prison footage or whatever where a guy does get disarmed, it's because the guy royally messed up. Like maybe he had a knife like hidden, something like this. And then the police officer was right there and he was like, and he's doing, it just took too long. So then the police was able to grab his wrist and put him up against the wall. Or the guy took out the knife and he doesn't want to use it. And he's doing this, like don't make me swing at you. And he's so he's not really attacking. He's more like, this is a threat. So it's like he doesn't really want to use it. So at that time, the cop is able to grab his wrist and take him down and then struggle and take the knife away from the guy or something like that. So I wouldn't really be too worried about the disarms. Does that mean the disarm techniques don't work? No. Personally, through my own method, I've been able to find a way to make the disarms work, because that was one of the most important things for me. Was in my own training of Filipino martial arts, I learned the traditional stuff, and then I was super into full contact because the UFC came out around that time, and I was like, man, I wanted to become a professional kickboxer. I wanted to become a Texas state champion. So that was my goal. I wanted to become a full contact fighter. And that was right when the UFC was coming out and everything. And so the Filipino martial arts, I really, really enjoyed and I thought was extremely valuable. So I said to myself, I want these techniques to work in full contact, even if I don't have weapons. If I have a knife, sure, I could do heaven six, whatever. A grappler's coming, heaven six his face, no problem. But even without a weapon, I still need to be able to deal with a grappler or an MMA fighter or whatever. So that was extremely important for me, the full contact. So then I was thinking, how do I do the traditional techniques of Filipino martial arts in full contact? How can I make it work for me? And that was, over 20 years of trying to figure that out. And, I've come to the point where I feel like I'm very satisfied with my findings and my results, and I've been trying to share it with you guys. So then, yes, I've been able to do disarms in full contact, but once again, what I see on YouTube, everyone's trying to do disarms in medium range, which is if this is my opponent, okay, medium range means I can hit him already. I'm already in range. That's all it takes right here. These are all cuts. Maybe they're not deep, but these are all cuts. Okay, I can do all of that already. So from here, people are trying to grab and catch, and unless, like I said, I took my time taking it out, or I don't really want to use it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna kill this guy. I don't want to use this dude. Back off. Unless it's like that, there's no way. There's no way he can disarm me from here. I'd have to be mental fart or something. You know, you try to disarm me from here, I'm gonna cut you up big time. Stab, cut. We're too close from here. So, but in practice, we train right here, because if we do it from out here, it's just too many other things going on, and it could become way too confusing. So we practice disarms, and including myself, we practice disarms from here. But I make sure to tell my students, in real life, you're not going to be doing disarms in medium range. You're going to be doing disarms right here in close range, where limbs are stopped, where it's grappling, because a disarm is essentially a grappling technique. So if you're going to use a grappling technique, it needs to be in a grappling situation. Right here, medium range, this is a striking. This is essentially boxing. This is kickboxing. It's, you know, once again, so right here, where you can grab and neutralize, then you can slow down the arm. Because if not, with no control, this can go anywhere. Even if you grab it, it's just going to last a split second. So I could punch you in the face, rip my arm out, pull it out, boom, boom, boom. It's just too unpredictable. It needs to be controlled. A good example I could give you guys is a snake. Imagine a cobra, right? And the cobra is very hostile. Are you going to try to grab the cobra? No. If the cobra comes, you're going to have to hit it. You're going to have to hit it with, you know, hopefully you have something in your hand, and you're going to be hitting it. And then when you see the opportunity, you want like a blanket, throw it on top of the cobra, and then grab it. See, so that's when you make it, that's grappling essentially. So now you're in close range. So okay. What's my EDC? You know what? I don't have it here with me, but my EDC is a no-name brand. It's in the other room, so I apologize, but it's a no-name brand folding knife. And even that, I don't always carry it. I do have blades on me, but now we're talking about like really small, like keychain type of stuff. And so I always have a blade on me. Like the SOG, the key, it's shaped like a key, and it's a folding knife. So I have that. So yeah, there's always a blade on me for sure. But yeah, as far as an actual knife is concerned, you know, it depends on the area that I go in. So most of the time, another thing is on my keys is a Kubotan. So I actually have the Kubotan on there, and that's always there. So that and the SOG knife, the mini key shaped SOG knife is always. So those are my EDC that doesn't change, right? But depending on where I'm going, I might upgrade or I might downgrade. Or maybe I just want to see how a knife feels. So maybe it's a new knife that I got, or I'm just in the mood to carry something. So that I'm super flexible with that. So I hope that makes sense. And thank you for the question. Okay, so like that train of thought, thank you for your answer. It was very informative. Well, hey man, I'm glad. Look, I'm not here to argue with anyone. If you don't agree with me, don't worry about it. I'm not the end all be all. So I'm just providing information that come from my experience and my knowledge. And if you can use it, awesome. If you can't, hey man, there's lots of other great instructors and stuff on YouTube. So, you know, take whatever works for you. That is the Filipino way, essentially, you know, is whatever clicks, whatever makes sense to you, use that. And that's all it's about. So we're friends in that way. There's no point in arguing. You have your way, I have my way, right? Would you carry a backup defensive weapon, maybe pepper spray, if not a bladed weapon? Oh, my bad. That's another thing. I also have pepper spray in my belt bag, and the belt bag, so sometimes I carry it up here or whatever. But yeah, that's always there. So yes, the answer is yes, and yes, I do have pepper spray on me, and yeah, I'm open to whatever. So. Sometimes I have two wallets. One wallet is a decoy, right? So yeah, not something recently I've been carrying two wallets for a long time now. So yeah, and I was doing that with keys sometimes. So it all changes, depending on what I want to try out and test out. So want to be constantly evolving, constantly learning. So yeah, it changes frequently. So I hope that makes sense. So, okay, real quick, one of the things is, what is the Filipino martial arts knife? What is the official Filipino martial? It should have been this, the balisong, okay? It should have been. But I think, as we know, this became illegal in a lot of places. So because it became illegal, now it's like our official knife is gone. It's almost like our art got banned. So the Filipino martial arts was kind of like at a loss, I think. And so then we didn't have our knife. If you look at silat, it's the karambit knife. So all the silat people, they have this awesome, it's almost like a mascot is the karambit. And that's great. So with the Philippines, knife-wise, we lost it. I believe it should have been this guy right here, the balisong, right? So now, I really feel like you look around all the tactical knives, and how many knives are designed by an actual Filipino martial arts guy, and the one by Professor Bram Frank. I mean, this is, and I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, right? The guy is pretty much the inheritor to the arnis system. So, and arnis was my first style. So I'd have to say this is the Filipino, I almost want to say the official Filipino martial arts knife, or it should be. But, okay. You're interested in the Kubotan with pepper spray from Asp? Hey man, I think those are great. Tools are good to have. It's definitely someone who has a weapon versus someone who doesn't have a weapon. The person who has the weapon is, to me, at an advantage. So for sure, I'd say if that's what you're interested in, but make sure you practice. Don't just buy it and put it away, or you just carry it and you never practice with it. So testing it out, practicing it, very, very important. Okay, so the next would be good to see your techniques with the 2-in-1, with that 2-in-1 function. 2-in-1 function of what? What? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Sorry. So. All right. Never understood that band. Yeah. It's just unfortunate. I don't know when it was banned. Was it banned in the 60s, 70s, or before that? Was it banned in the 30s or 40s, 50s maybe? I don't know. So part of that is knowing the era, what was happening around at that time. I know in the Philippines, part of the reason why they went to knife stuff, because at first, remember, it was the stick. The stick is what? The stick was the training weapon for their sword, essentially, which was the bolo, which is very similar to a machete, but it's their one-handed sword. So the stick is a representation of that. When did it turn into knife? Well, part of that is the original system very, very influenced by European fencing. And when I say European fencing, that's a broad term. But in particular, we're talking about the Spanish method of fencing. And at the time, the Spaniards were some of the best fencers on the planet. And they had the espada y daga method, which is the sword and dagger. So already right there, the Filipinos had, from the very beginning, they understood that the short blade and the long blade. So they already used that. But then I'm not exactly sure what time, if it was the 1930s or before that or what, in the Philippines, it started to become very street culture. And a lot of young Filipinos that were training in the art became more like street gangs, and they started fighting each other, for reputation or whatever. And then I think something more concealable became more necessary. And that's where it started to turn into knife culture. And because of the bloody violence and whatnot, that could have caused a ban. And that also probably really helped with the reputation for Filipino martial arts, and that they don't mess around with a knife. That it was definitely comes from the thug culture. So some similarities with Piper, if you think about that, all right. So yeah. Anyway, I think I don't know how long I've been on. It doesn't say, but I think it's almost an hour. Okay, I bet I'm gonna get ready to wrap this up. Let's see. Do you usually include elements from other martial arts in your workouts? Absolutely, absolutely, for sure. Let me see. I grew up watching movies like Bloodsport, playing video games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And I mean, those are all like these tournaments with all these different styles. I like that. I like different styles. It's just too much fun. So yeah, there are times where I go very, very traditional, and I will just like sit and meditate. And there's other times where I'll go very sport, and I'll work on the punching bag, and I'll time myself and work more on like cardio and developing punching skills and kicking skills like a kickboxer. And then there's other times where, I'm doing more tactical type training, and I'm working with live blades out in the yard or in the garage with the tires, cutting cardboard boxes, seeing what angle do I want to stab, and then can I stab into a slash, when I actually pierce through, and how does that work? Or am I going to hurt my wrist or my grip? So, just working on different things. And man, it's just all fun. I love martial arts, period. So to me, there's no one superior style. There are all as well. Like humans can be very, very clever in knowing like certain cultures do this to survive, or it could just be even like daily things that they do that's just clever. And it's like the Koreans have these metal chopsticks. Japan is wood. We use a lot of wood, but over in Korea they have these metal chopsticks, which I was like, man, that's just easier to wash. It just seems smart to me, So I mean, there's things like that you could look all over the world. Cool stuff like that. So. So anyway, yeah, I think I will cut it here. Thank you guys so much, so much for joining me. It was a pleasure to do so. Yeah, we're at 59 minutes, 24 seconds. So thank you so much. And you guys be safe. Happy holidays and take care.